Your mind was not built for the world you're living in right now, and whether you realize it or not, that world is changing the way your brain functions every single day. Constant stimulation, endless scrolling, instant entertainment, notifications, short-form content, rapid dopamine spikes, emotional overload, infinite novelty, all of it training your mind to crave speed, distraction, and immediate reward at a level the human brain was never designed to handle. And at first it feels harmless, because everyone does it, because it feels normal, because it feels like relaxation, because it feels like you're just taking a break. But slowly, over time, something starts happening to your mind without you fully noticing it. Your attention span weakens, your patience drops, your focus fragments, deep work becomes harder, silence becomes uncomfortable, stillness feels unbearable, and tasks that once required normal effort now feel mentally exhausting. Not because you've become lazy, not because you've lost intelligence, but because your brain has been conditioned to operate at a completely unnatural level of stimulation. You've trained yourself to expect reward constantly, instantly, repeatedly, and once your brain adapts to that level of stimulation, normal life starts feeling dull by comparison. That's why discipline feels harder now than it should, because the work you need to do often produces delayed reward, while the distractions around you produce instant reward, and your brain naturally begins pulling toward what delivers dopamine fastest. So every time you sit down to focus, every time you try to work deeply, every time you attempt to stay present with something difficult or slow, your brain resists it aggressively, because compared to the level of stimulation you've conditioned it to expect, focused work feels understimulating. And that resistance creates a dangerous cycle, because the harder focus feels, the more you escape into stimulation, and the more you escape into stimulation, the weaker your focus becomes, until eventually your mind starts losing the ability to sustain deep attention almost entirely. That's the real crisis most people are living in right now. Not lack of ambition, not lack of goals, but neurological fragmentation, a mind so overstimulated that it can no longer hold attention long enough to create meaningful momentum. And when attention collapses, everything collapses with it, because attention is the foundation of execution, learning, emotional regulation, creativity, consistency, and long-term growth. Without sustained attention, you can't build anything significant, because every meaningful result requires depth, and depth requires focus that lasts longer than a few seconds at a time. But your brain is now being trained in the opposite direction every single day, toward speed, toward novelty, toward emotional spikes, toward endless consumption that destroys your ability to tolerate boredom, stillness, or delayed gratification. And delayed gratification is where almost all meaningful growth lives. The body you want, the business you want, the focus you want, the life you want. None of it comes instantly. It requires repetition without immediate reward, effort without instant validation, consistency before visible results, and a brain addicted to constant dopamine spikes struggles to tolerate that process. So instead you seek relief, stimulation, distraction, quick reward, fast entertainment, because your nervous system has been conditioned to crave immediate satisfaction over long-term progress. And this isn't accidental. Entire industries are built around capturing your attention, holding your focus, triggering your emotions, and keeping your brain in a constant cycle of stimulation, because attention is profitable. The longer they keep you consuming, the more disconnected you become from deep thought, deep focus, deep work, and ultimately from yourself. Because when your attention is constantly externally controlled, your internal control weakens, and once internal control weakens, discipline becomes unstable, emotional regulation becomes unstable, motivation becomes unstable, your entire mental state becomes reactive instead of intentional. That's why you can feel mentally exhausted without doing anything physically difficult, because dopamine overload burns attention, fragments focus, and keeps your nervous system trapped in cycles of craving and stimulation that never fully satisfy you. You consume more but feel less fulfilled. You stimulate more but feel less motivated. You scroll more but focus less deeply. You react more but think less clearly. And eventually you reach a point where silence feels uncomfortable because your brain no longer knows how to exist without stimulation constantly feeding it. That's when you know your attention has been hijacked. When you can no longer sit still with your own thoughts without reaching for distraction almost automatically. So now the goal changes completely, because instead of feeding the cycle, you have to begin reversing it, intentionally retraining your brain to tolerate stillness, boredom, focus, and delayed reward again. And at first, this feels brutal because your brain fights it hard. It craves stimulation, it searches for dopamine constantly, it wants novelty, speed, entertainment, escape, anything to avoid the discomfort of low stimulation. But that discomfort is where your attention span begins rebuilding, because attention grows through resistance the same way strength does. Every time you resist distraction, focus deepens. Every time you tolerate boredom, patience strengthens. Every time you stay present without stimulation, your nervous system recalibrates. And slowly, something begins changing inside your mind. Your thoughts become clearer, your focus becomes steadier, your emotions become less reactive, your attention stops scattering so easily across meaningless things. You begin reclaiming control over your own mind again. Because that's what dopamine control really is. Not eliminating pleasure, not becoming emotionless, but regaining authority over where your attention goes instead of allowing external systems to dictate it constantly. You stop living in reaction mode. You stop chasing stimulation endlessly. You stop needing constant entertainment just to feel normal. And when that happens, your ability to work deeply returns. Your discipline strengthens naturally. Your motivation stabilizes because your nervous system is no longer overloaded every second of the day. This is why people who control their attention become so dangerous in the modern world. Because while everyone else is distracted, reactive, overstimulated, and mentally fragmented, they remain calm, focused, intentional, and capable of sustained execution. And sustained execution is what creates extraordinary results over time. Not bursts of intensity, not temporary motivation, not emotional hype, sustained focus over long periods without breaking. That's rare now because attention itself has become rare. So if you truly want to separate yourself, stop only training your body, stop only trying to force discipline, and start training your nervous system to tolerate focus again. Train yourself to exist without constant stimulation. Train yourself to work without instant reward. Train yourself to focus deeply without needing escape every few minutes. Because the person who controls their attention controls their future. And the person who loses control of their attention eventually loses control of their life. Protect your mind from fragmentation. Protect your focus from stimulation. Protect your future from distraction. Because your brain is either being trained intentionally or hijacked accidentally.